What up, everybody? Welcome back to Operation Moksha. As always, I'm your host, Chris Orozco, and today I'm going to be describing my experience of how I personally overcame a lifetime of depression. Now, before I go into it, I want to let you know that you should probably take this with a grain of salt because this is just my own personal experience. But at the same time, I have been coaching around this for the last 8 years, and there are some common themes that are important enough and common enough to where you're probably going to see yourself in a couple of them. And if you do, at the very least, they'll give you some loosening of your symptoms of depression. All right, so before I go into, the three main things that I've noticed that can cause depression, I kind of want to share with you a little bit about my experience, because I know when you're in it and someone telling you that depression can be overcome can oftentimes feel like a slap in the face. It feels like you're doing everything you can possibly do. It feels like you're fighting with every bit of energy that you have every single day, and someone telling you that these things can be overcome feels like you're just not doing enough. But that's not what I'm here to say. I'm here to tell you that there are simply ways of looking at depression and causes of it that most people don't know about, where it's not about whether or not you're trying hard enough, it's about whether or not what you're doing is actually going to lead to the results that you want. So what I'm going to be doing today is sharing with you things that have helped me overcome a lifetime of depression. Because what happened for me was my dad died when I was a little kid. I saw it happen. I was in the room, and it just completely devastated me. I became afraid of the world. I completely withdrew. Over time, that compounded. And then by the time I was in my 20s, I was a complete shell of myself who couldn't speak, couldn't feed himself, couldn't hold a job, couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. I was stuck in bed all the time for weeks at a time, and there was really nothing I could do about it. However, once I started to understand the concepts that I'm about to share with you today, I finally felt a sense of power over my symptoms. I could start to overcome them, and now depression is basically something I don't deal with anymore. There are essentially three things that I notice that cause most depression symptoms in the people that I talk to, as well as myself. The first one is actually kind of tricky because you wouldn't think that this is where depression comes from, but more often than not, this is usually what causes it. And it's actually a sense of burnout. What happens is people feel such a strong need to prove themselves, to accomplish things, to prove their worth, something like that. Part of their minds that is dedicated to pushing them to achieving and creating and being great and proving their existence is so overbearing and so overpowering that it actually puts so much pressure on you that you simply cannot bear to live anymore. And so you get exhausted just from the constant pressure coming from inside of your own mind, which just makes you want to sleep all the time. It makes you want to rest all the time. Because if you get up and if you try to do something, there's going to be such an oppressive force on you to get it done that it simply becomes unbearable and you'd rather just lay down. Now, one of the other things that I've noticed from my own personal experience as well as coaching from other people is that depression can also come from carrying around a lot of other unconscious traumas for so long that they start to become so heavy that they weigh you down and make it difficult to really accomplish anything. Here's what I mean. So when you're young, you can, carry around whatever trauma without that much hindrance to your energy or your mobility or anything like that. But as you get older and more things happen to you and your trauma compounds and it grows and grows and grows and there's more and more baggage, so to speak, it literally gets heavier and heavier, and it requires more of your mental energy to be able to fight that heaviness and be able to keep going and do whatever you need to do. However, if you keep fighting it long enough, eventually it can get so heavy that it becomes essentially unbearable and you simply just don't have the energy to move around anymore. And for a lot of people who are experiencing the symptoms of depression, what they're really experiencing is so much weight on them from so much unconscious trauma from such a long time that it's started to become more heavy than they can bear. All right, so the last one that I want to talk about is oftentimes the trickiest one because it can kind of hide out in the back of your mind, and a lot of people aren't aware of it until I point it out to them on a call or something like that. And what can happen is we can get scared or traumatized as kids, and we can get the idea that life out there is scary. That people are scary, going out and engaging with the world is scary. There's some kind of threat that we fear, and so we start to avoid it. As you go through your life and you have more traumatic experiences and deal with more difficult challenges and things like that, the fear of the unknown or the fear of people or the fear of whatever it is can compound and grow over time, to the point where you become so afraid that you don't even want to leave your couch. And this is one of the things that can often cause someone's symptoms of depression, where they can't move, they can't do things, they can't get up, and they don't know why. But the reality is you're seeing a threat in your environment that you don't know how to face. So if you can start to face that threat and you've imagined is in your environment and come up with a plan to deal with it, then suddenly your resistance to it, your avoidance of it, all of that starts to go away. Your energy comes back and you can go out and engage with the world because you feel prepared to deal with whatever threat you think is out there. All right, so now that I've shared with you essentially what the three main causes that I've noticed over the last 8 years of coaching are, now I'm going to tell you essentially how to overcome them. So if what you're dealing with is burnout, then what you're really dealing with is essentially an overactive active inner critic or inner pusher. It's this part of your personality that thinks you need to work really fucking hard all the time in order to either create something or produce something or be good enough or prove your worth or whatever the hell it is. And it's become so overbearing that it's essentially smashing all the life out of you and making it incapable for you to do whatever it is you want. So what you really need to do is figure out, why is this part of me pushing so hard? What is it afraid of? What does it think will happen if I don't push myself so hard? For me, I told myself that I was a bad person that needed to push myself really hard to prove that I was good. So what ultimately needed to be faced was the idea that I'm a bad person and have to work really hard in order to feel like a good person. So I had to love the part of myself that said I was bad. I had to love the part of myself that was basically pushing me so hard to prove that I was good, let them know that I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm a good person, I'm loved, everything's great, and I can just do things because I want to. And as that happened, the need to push started to go away because I no longer had anything to prove. I didn't think I was a bad person anymore. Now that I see myself as a good person, it's like, cool, what do I want to do? What's fun? What's fulfilling? Got nothing to prove anymore. So if you're dealing with burnout, you got to figure out what it is you're pushing yourself so hard to accomplish and why. Begin to face that, and then your symptoms will start to lessen. Now, if you're in the camp where what you're dealing with is essentially the weight of unconscious trauma and emotions weighing you down over enough period of time, what you really need to do is start getting clear about what it is that's weighing you down. For me, it was, this fear that I'm a bad person that I just spoke about, all these different thoughts and ideas that I got as a result of losing my father. Over time, they just became more and more heavy and started to weigh me down and basically made life unlivable. So what I had to do was start to get really curious, being like, why am I so tired all the time? What am I holding on to? What is weighing me down that is making it seem so hard for me to get up and face my life? And as a result, if you genuinely ask that question with a sincere desire to learn the answer, your mind will start to show you all the things that have been weighing you down. And I recommend you taking your time facing them because you've been avoiding them for a reason. They're going to be scary. They're going to be really uncomfortable. So take your time when facing them. But if you genuinely ask that question with a sincere answer to no, your mind will show you the answers. And you just take your time facing them, express them, get them out of your body. And as you get those thoughts and emotions that are stuck in there out of your body, you will literally start to feel more light because that weight is leaving your body. And if you replace it with positive ideas, you build momentum in a positive direction, all that heaviness turns back into light and energy, and you can get back to living your life. Now, if you're in the third camp, where basically at some point in your life, you got the idea that life is scary or threatening or dangerous and it's essentially to be avoided, and now you're stuck in bed or on the couch like I was, what you really need to do is start to understand what it is specifically you are afraid of. For me, it was basically when I was a little kid and my dad died right in front of me, it was like, wow, really terrible things can happen at a moment's notice and there's not a goddamn thing I can do about it. That means life is really goddamn scary and dangerous and I should probably just avoid the whole thing. Now that spread out over enough time with enough other really unfortunate circumstances, that idea built in my head to the point where I had to avoid it, basically stuck to my couch or my bed. So in order to deal with that, I had to look to this part of myself and say, it's like, yeah, dude, bad stuff can happen. Really isn't much we can do about it. But if it does, I'll be there for you. I'll make sure you have good friends. I'll make sure you have a good community. I'll make sure you have all the resources you need to deal with life when it does come at you. But for the stuff I can help you avoid, I'll come up with plans. And as I did that, this part of me realized that everything was actually going to be okay because now there's somebody looking out for it and taking care of it. Those threats are being addressed, and this part of me could start to come back to life and embrace life without having to be so afraid of it. So for you, you need to figure out specifically what you're afraid of. Come up with a plan to deal with it between you and the part of you that's scared until that part of you feels satisfied that someone's actually caring and is actually going to take care of what it's afraid of. And then as that starts to build, you'll come back to life and your depression symptoms will go away. My hope is that you've seen yourself in at least one or two of those three examples. Again, this is something that I've noticed over the last 8 years of coaching. It's way more common than you might think. So I'm hoping you do see yourself in some of that, and I'm hoping these solutions are helpful to you. Please let me know if there's any other questions or concerns I can answer about this, because I know it's a deep and complex conversation. But I love you. Thank you for being here. My name is Chris Roscoe. I'll see you next time.
I was hoping you would say it while you eat it. Is that a berry?
2 berries.
Where did you get berries?
I had berries.
Oh.